Hello, a very warm welcome and welcome back to this channel. My name is Aston, and in this video I will be taking you through start to finish through my process in creating this mixed media painting. I was able to time-lapse the entire creation of this painting, so I will give you a narration of my whole process and every step that it took from start to finish, and share with you some of my methods for creating a landscape like this. This is a painting inspired by one of my travel photos from this summer. Thank you so much for joining, and let's jump right into it.
So the first thing I do with any standalone project is to make a color palette. In this case, I'm working from a photo, so I have the photo up on my iPad the entire time I'm working on this project, and I start pulling colors from my Granulating watercolor collection and my Turner Acrylic Gouache Japanesque collection that will match with the photo. And I had leftover acrylic gouache on my palette. I didn't want to waste it, so I'm doing what I usually do, which is just throwing it into my sketchbooks, into a Paintzilla. I realized some colors were missing from my palette, so I went back through my collection and maybe chose some other greens and stuff to add to the palette for this project. I worked on the Strathmore Mixed Media 9x12 tone tan paper. I'll put the thickness on the screen of the paper. I'd used this before only for standalone acrylic wash paintings, but never for a mix of like granulating watercolor on this paper. I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. Here I am doing a transfer of the image with a printout of the photo. I talked in my favorite art supplies video about how I do a pan pastel transfer. I use it like as a tracing method. And what I'm doing is I'm just putting the main characters, if you will, of the landscape. I'm just getting them down on the paper so I know where everything will be in space. It doesn't matter too much going over it a little bit with a blue mechanical pencil. This will be totally covered up with paint anyway, almost. So I'm not worrying too much about the transfer. I'm just really putting things in space. After that, the next step that I like to do is to put in the background. So for this, I used a mix of Irodori gouache and granulating watercolor. I think the sky is particularly successful and looks a lot like the photo, but it was kind of a struggle. I put on paint and take it off and then put it back on again. And so I've got some background in the mountains and then the foreground grass. Now I'm putting in the mountains, and I am using another piece of the mixed media paper to add some depth and dimension to the painting. I do this a lot in my portrait work, and I've just started doing it in landscapes, is making them in kind of the same way with layers of cutouts, painted cutouts that I'll layer onto the base piece of the painting. So I've got the mountains, setting them aside. Now I'm doing another pan pastel transfer in the exact same way onto a fresh piece of the mixed media paper, because I'm going to cut out these objects individually. And I'll paint them individually, and then I'll glue them back into the painting. This is also how I work on portraits. But yeah, this is only my second landscape, sort of making it in the same way that using the same process that I use for my paper portraits. I thought the sky needed some more white in the clouds, so I brought that back in. And glued down the mountains where they belonged, and now I'm getting into clarifying these two main characters of the shrine and the pine tree. For me, those were the most important characters in this picture. And I also use the cutout to see where everything will go in space, kind of like a puzzle. It took a bunch of time layering up, especially on the temple pavilion. So I'm painting extra sections of mixed media paper so I can cut out individual pieces to build up the little balcony, and the railing for the stairs. So this part just kind of takes a while and is a little bit tedious, but I get really into it. And yeah, I'm trying to stay true to the look of the pavilion. It took quite a long time. These little fiddly details really can take a while, but ultimately I got to a place that I was satisfied with my work. The glue that I'm using is Elmer's like washable school glue stick, and I find that when I get glue on the like on top of the paint, it's easier to remove, especially if it's like an acrylic gouache and not a watercolor, because the glue is water soluble, and you can take some of it off of the water. Now I'm adding in the shadows and putting on the railings. So this is a photo from my travels in Japan. It's on a UNESCO World Heritage site, I think because of geological reasons, but the little shrine has a fascinating story. It was built in 1937, and it's kind of like a protector of the town, and I believe that it burned down, and everyone who lived in the town felt that it was like protecting the town from disaster, and they rebuilt it pretty quickly, but it's a really sweet, tiny little shrine. Hokkaido is so naturally beautiful. I'll put in the description links about the area and the significance of this little shrine, and which the name starts with a U, and I'm forgetting it at the moment, but it's just on the end of my brain. Anyway, I'll put it in the footage. Now I'm adding in the shadows with my some of my Boku Undo Gansai paint. My mom really liked this picture, and she had asked for a painting of this picture. I meant to do it for her birthday, and I didn't finish it in time, so I really rushed to get it in time for Christmas. I think this took me about 30 hours from start to finish. I worked on it over a period of like 5 days. And I hope that you like it. I was so happy to give this to her as a gift. And after I finish all the individual shapes, I then will carefully make sure they're placed where they need to be placed, and then glue them into the picture. And yeah, definitely the shrine was the biggest, most complicated part of this whole thing, and I'm finishing that up here, putting them all in. Let me know if you might like to have an archival art print of this landscape. Let me know if you would like to see me make other landscapes in this way. I've really been enjoying it, adding some more to the Paintzilla. Yeah, soon I'll be adding a lot more original prints to my Etsy shop, so stay tuned for that. Wanted to wish you a very happy new year. We just rolled over a new year into 2026, and I hope you're all doing well. I will have more videos for you soon. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.